Okay, Stadia gets its own video this week because it's going to be a little bit ranty, a little bit negative, and I don't want it bringing down the rest of the weekly cloud gaming news like a middle-aged divorced woman at a wedding.
Me and my 3 eggs are having the best time!
So there's 3 main Stadia stories hitting the headlines this week. We have comments made by Tim Sweeney in the most recent Epic versus Apple deposition, Vice President and Head of Product for Stadia leaving, and at least half a dozen Stadia staff jumping ship to join previously departed Jade Raymond. But before we get into that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next video, and as always, if you enjoy the content, I would certainly appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. Fun fact, costs you absolutely nothing, but helps me out tremendously. So starting things off with the most recent comment to surface in the Battle of the Tims.
Unbelievable!
When asked, do you know whether or not Google Stadia is in existence today, Tim Sweeney stated, my understanding is that after a public launch, Google Stadia has been very significantly scaled back. Due to a concern that confidential information may be revealed, the judge did cut off all of the comments at this point, but I mean, come on, judge. There's no secret. Now, this is a point in the video where I remind people that I was a Stadia subscriber for well over a year, since day one. I enjoyed the gameplay experience. In terms of streaming technology, Stadia is ahead of a lot of the competition, and in case it's news to anyone, I'm a big advocate of all cloud gaming services and truly believe that a failure for one platform sets back the inevitable future transition to cloud gaming as a whole. With that out of the way, quote, very significantly scaled back 100% explains the current position Stadia find themselves in, still missing some of the features shared by Phil Harrison at the unveiling back in 2019, and prime example, only last week, getting things added like a search bar, which they honestly really seem to celebrate, but now I understand why. There's like one developer sat in an empty office who managed to add a search bar. I'm proud of him. Next, another senior member of the Stadia team jumps ship, this time Vice President and Product Head John Justice, which BT dubs with a name like that, I really hope his next role is superhero. That being said, in a last minute update to this story, it does look like Captain Justice has now updated his LinkedIn profile to show Vice President at Facebook, but at this point it's unconfirmed whether or not that will be in the capacity of a gaming type role or something else. But with this one, I do find myself teetering on the edge of whether or not this is good or bad news. Coming from a product role myself, I can tell you that it was John's job to ensure that Stadia had a robust product roadmap in place. You know, the thing we've never seen. So on one hand, John's replacement may be able to come in and completely turn that around. On the other, we have no idea about a replacement, especially with that very significantly scaled back comment floating around. And finally, in another mass departure to round off this week's less than spectacular Stadia news, at least half a dozen Stadia developers have left to join previously departed Jade Raymond in her new venture, a game studio called Haven Studios. The list includes notable developers who worked with Raymond previously to help create the early Assassin's Creed games, as well as artists, engineers, and user experience staff. So people with game development experience leaving Stadia, honestly, this one makes total sense to me. With their closing of the in-house game studio, and Google was just looking to try and find other roles that fits their skill set, it makes sense that they would look elsewhere and take roles that they're actually experienced in, and not just something that Google was trying to shoehorn them into. But with the other roles, as we've already said, a loss of people like general engineers and UX staff could significantly hurt Stadia in pushing out new features, and again, with that scaled back comment, we can only speculate as to whether or not those people will be replaced. But this is the part of the video where I want to hear your thoughts on this week's Stadia news. Is there any coming back from these continued hits? Are we witnessing the slow death of Stadia, or could one good new hire come in and turn all of this around? Any and all thoughts, let me know in those comments down below. But if you enjoyed this roundup of Stadia news, a like rating would be appreciated. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next video. Hope everyone's staying safe out there, and as always, I shall see you in the next one.